The University of Miami beat Wake Forest on Saturday 42-14. You take away a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown and a botched assignment in the Canes secondary for an uncontested touchdown pass. And Miami's defense pitches a shutout. And then on the offensive side of the ball, some really nice plays offensively, and then some really inconsistent and maddening plays. We've got a lot to talk about today. This is QB Unfiltered, my take, the Cam Ward experience, number 11, the U versus Wake Forest.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
Okay, that's 11 games in the books for the Canes, and this 12th game is going to be a beauty. They go on a business trip to Syracuse, New York, the Carrier Dome, to play the Syracuse Orangemen. And defensively, the Canes are going to go against one of the elite passing teams in the country. And this McCord dude, the quarterback for the Orangemen, he can sling it. They do a great job of throwing the football. So this is going to be a really big challenge for Miami's secondary and defensive line. But the game, I think, is going to hinge on whether Cam Ward consistently plays the way he can play. The receivers run full speed routes and catch the football, and the offensive line continues to get better and keep Cam standing up in the pocket, because I think this game's going to be one of these. An absolute tennis match. Back and forth, up and down, ding the scoreboard, and Miami's going to have to match scores. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I think that this is going to be one of these video game football games. All right, and with that being said, as always, let's start with Canes quarterback Cam Ward. Now, today I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into Cam and talk a little bit more about mechanics, feet, passing game, so on and so forth. But Cam for this game was 27 for 38 for 280 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns, and seems like I'm saying this every week, he also threw a really brutal pick. All right, he started the game off, going 9 for his first 9, and Miami zipped the ball right down the field. He was throwing in rhythm and tempo. Miami's offense was in rhythm and tempo. And that drive ended with a touchdown pass to George, which I will talk about more here in a second. All right, let's go to the board and talk about Miami's first touchdown of the game. It was a mesh route and touchdown pass to Jacoby George. And I'm going to go over the coverage that Wake Forest was playing and then talk about the route and why it was so successful. All right, I'm going to start with giving you the assignments for the coverage guys and this defense, which in the secondary, they're playing quarter, half. All right, and what quarter, half is, basically, it's a loose man on one side and 2 zone on the other side. Quarter, half, and here are the responsibilities. We'll start with the backside. So the corner out there is going to play flat responsibility depending on, how they attack his zone with a route. He's got a tight end who's split down in a regular tight end alignment here, depending on what that guy does with his route or whoever else comes across the formation to affect this guy. But his responsibility is the flat. And then he's got that safety back there. And because they're in the red zone here, his alignment is tightened down, but he's playing over the top of that. So this is 2 zone on this side. And now let's go to the man-to-man side. So the corner and the strong safety are backed off and playing inside leverage. And that look right there, before I draw anything else up, that look right there you can basically run anything you want to the outside receiver or to the number 2 receiver. All right. Or this guy, if he can run, which Arroyo can run pretty good. This is a coverage that is pretty easy to beat. And the route that the Canes have dialed up here does exactly that. So here's the responsibilities on the other side. So we'll start with the backers in the box. These two guys have hook to hook, which is in the box, maybe even get wider if they need to based on what the routes are that they're seeing. And then the slot defender is manned up on Arroyo, who is the H-back. The safety's manned up over the number 2 receiver, which is Restrepo, and the corners lined up in man-to-man over George. Okay, here's the route that Miami runs. It's a mesh route with a dig coming in behind the mesh. Okay, let's start with Restrepo. They bring him in motion. All right. And he's running the mesh with the tight end. So they're going to cross, and in zone, when they get zone drops by the backers, they're going to sit in grass, which they do. All right. Arroyo here lets Restrepo clear, and then he comes right off his ass, stems it up vertically, sticks his toe in the ground, and he's running the dig route over the top of that. But the game and why Shannon Dawson's calling this, and Cam Ward knows this too, the game is out here with George. All right. He is one-on-one with this dude who's playing 7 to 8 yards off inside shade. This is easy money. So you notice George cuts a split down, and the reason he does that is so he's got room and grass to run when he runs the out route, and he is running basically an out cut, a sail route, a speed out, however you want to call it. And he catches the touchdown. So Cam Ward knows where he's going on this play. You know, this is just basic run your routes, you know, kind of an aerobic workout for these dudes, work on your technique. This is one-on-one. George against the corner with all kinds of grass out there. This is Cam Ward can throw this with his eyes closed all day long. Gets the snap, gets his feet underneath him, and he delivers an absolute dime out here to George, easy touchdown. And that is one route that obliterates quarter, half. But the question that I want to ask you is, when you look at that first drive and you look at the first half of the first quarter, what's the difference between that and the rest of the game for the Miami Hurricanes? And I'm discounting the fourth quarter where Wake Forest just mailed it in on both offense and defense. So what's the difference between that first drive and that first part of the first quarter, and then the last part of the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter? Well, the difference is this. The routes that they were throwing and completing, which are easy money throws, hitch routes to the outside receiver, slot out routes, cut outside receiver splits down and run them on, out routes, throwing little punch screens out there, which is just an extension of the run game. Those are all throws that Cam can do with his eyes closed. And, you know, it was easy in those first 9 throws in that first part of the first quarter. And then for the second and third quarter, we stopped seeing those routes consistently. And that's a head scratcher. We're going to talk more about that as we go. And like the first 10 games of the season, when we talk about Cam Ward, we have to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, let's start with the good. All right, these are Cam's best passes of the day. According to me, I'm going to give you 4 of them. His 4th best pass, and I'm not being a smartass on this, but he threw a check down route to his running back. And, you know, this is a 7 or 8 yard throw, easy money, pitch and catch, right? The reason why this is his fourth best pass is it's because it's a great decision. You know, he makes his reads and his keys downfield. He doesn't have anything down there. Defenses cannot account for the running back on check down routes. And it doesn't matter whether you run a swing, you run a check down in the box, whatever. He's always by himself. And so in this situation here, Cam makes his reads and then just flips his hips and his eyes, spits the ball to the back, to the right side, and he goes for 13 yards and a first down. Okay, the third best throw of the game was a pass that was called back. It was the little switch fade to Restrepo where George was called for offensive PI, which was an obvious good call, but what a great throw by Cam Ward. You know, the feet were great, and he got the ball out of his hand when it needed to be, and he put it right where it had to go, where only Restrepo could go up and get it. That was a hell of a throw, and too bad that that was called back. All right, his second best throw of the game was to George on a quick post or a post run. You know, there's two ways that you can run a post. He can either beat the safety over the top and you put a 3 on the ball, air, try to drop it in there, or you throw it in front of the safety, which basically turns into a bender by the outside receiver. And that was the case here. Wake was running this quarter, half stuff, and they were getting George was on the quarter side, which was loose man. Again, you can do anything you want against that coverage to that side. And they ran the slot receiver on the out route. They ran George on that bender. And Cam threw an absolute dime on that. Now, George went up and made a great catch, but that ball was right where it needed to go. And if you look at Cam's footwork, and we haven't talked a lot about this in these shows, but as an offensive coordinator and a quarterback coach, you want to match the quarterback's footwork to the routes that he's throwing. In other words, if you're throwing a bender route to the outside receiver, which is a 20-yard, 25-yard throw, you don't have Cam Ward get the snap and GST it, grab, stab, and throw, right? Because he's going to catch the snap and he's going to stand there flat-footed. So you want rhythm. It's the same way that you wouldn't throw a slant route to the outside receiver and take a 5-step drop, okay? So Cam Ward on this is going 3-step, hitch, throw. Now, I don't think he needed that second hitch, but I'm not in his shoes. He may have had a blur situation where George needed to clear that slot defender. I'm not sure. But the way that Cam executes the footwork here is 1, 2, 3, hitch, throw. All right. He's throwing it in rhythm and he throws a dime. All right. His best pass of the night is one that I don't have a clip for because it was an incomplete pass. It was the vertical, the outside vert that he threw to George that was dropped in the end zone. Now, poor effort by George. This is another one that should have been a touchdown pass for Cam Ward. The thing that I love about this play, and I've been screaming for this all season long, use George's speed, Horton's speed, to challenge cornerbacks and run right by their ass and throw the ball up and go let them make a play. And that's exactly what they did here. Cam Ward with a great drop, good feet, and he threw a beautiful 3. So he put a lot of air underneath it and dropped it right in there. George has got to help him out and make the catch. Okay, that was the good for Cam Ward. Here's the bad. For the third time this season, he rolled to his right, all right, flushed out of the pocket, rolled to his right, was pinned in on the sideline, and chose to throw the ball back across his body to the middle of the field with nothing on the throw. This one was thrown in the end zone, so he's in the red zone, right? Take care of the ball, make great decisions. This play here was exactly like the other two. You know, he did this against Duke and he did it against Cal. Both of those resulted in picks. This one could have very easily have been a pick. At this point in the season, game 11, Cam Ward shouldn't be making those decisions. All right. The play's jacked up. You're flushed out. You don't have anybody there where you can deliver the ball and put it on them. Just run it and get out of bounds and get what you can get, and we line up and run another play. Don't do what you're doing, because bad things happen when you throw it across your body and get nothing on it. And now we go to the ugly. They're running a tunnel screen here, trying to run a tunnel screen. Wake Forest defensive lineman, I think, lucks into jamming this play up with, I don't know if they were twisting on this or what, but he got in the way of the screen. Now, what you tell your quarterback on screens, if it's jammed up, if it's cloudy, if it's not a good situation, burn the throw. And burning the throw means you throw it down in the ground at the feet of the screen receiver, and we line up and run another play. All right. And so what Cam does, because he can't throw it in rhythm, the play is already jacked up. Now he's going to try to improvise and make something happen, and he throws that shovel pass, and it's picked. Again, game 11. I know that he's done some of this stuff earlier in the season, and that's the problem with a gunslinger, and Cam Ward has a lot of gunslinger in him, is when they make plays like that where they're improvising, the Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes, this is a show for another day, but Patrick Mahomes, for as great a quarterback as he has messed up a lot of QBs across the country. I've got buddies up in Northern California that I still talk with that are telling me that private QB trainers up there are working with high school guys and younger in doing Mahomes, throwing the ball off balance, sidearm, falling away. Not good. Not good, not good. And you see Mahomes just about every Sunday do something where he's improvising. He does a lot of these shovel passes to guys. He'll throw them left-handed if he has to. And Cam Ward and all these other quarterbacks are watching that. And yep, that's cool. I'm going to do that too. He was successful early in the season on a couple of these plays. That's not the smart way to play the position. You got to be smart. You got to be smarter than this. This was the ugly part of the good, bad, and the ugly. This is a turnover. Didn't need to happen. Just burn the throw. We line up and run another play. But now Miami's offense is off the field because of Cam Ward's decision. Now, on the plus side here, I want you to watch the close-up, the TV shot of Cam Ward's reaction after he threw the shovel for the pick. When he's coming off the field, you can't tell if he just threw a pick or he just threw a touchdown pass, because he looks the same no matter what the situation is. And this is one of his superpowers and one of his skill sets that makes him such an effective quarterback. And I've talked about this all season long. It's how he responds to adversity. He doesn't lose his mind, go in the tank, show bad body language. I'm telling you, his teammates are looking at him to see how he's going to respond. He's the star. See how he's going to respond to an adverse situation. And they're going to model their behavior and get inspiration, or the flip side of that, based on what their star is doing when things don't go good for him. So kudos to Cam Ward here. Totally different than what Georgia quarterback Carson Beck does when he throws picks. And I'm going to talk about Jackson Dart later on in the show. I could not believe what I was seeing him do in the last couple minutes of the Florida game on Saturday. All right. Now, I've said this all season long. When Cam Ward gets his feet right, when he's on platform, right? He's got balance, weight distribution. Everything is flowing in rhythm and tempo. He can stride properly. He has a normal arm slot. All right. He transfers his weight, uses that, fast, quick delivery to get the ball out. But when he combines all of those things I just talked about, man, is he a machine. He throws darts and he puts it on receivers, but he doesn't consistently do that. And yes, there are going to be situations where he has to throw the ball off balance. He has to drop the arm down to throw it sidearm. There's going to be situations where that happens. Understandable. That happens to every quarterback in any game. The problem that I have with Cam and his mechanics is when he's in a pristine pocket environment where he doesn't have to throw off platform or off balance, where he doesn't have to drop down with his arm slot. At times, he will use sloppy mechanics, and it gets him in trouble. It gets him in trouble. Now, I saw a tweet on X after the game, maybe on Sunday, from a gentleman down there in Miami talking about, Cam Ward has basically changed the way that he thinks about quarterbacks. He used to think that it was all about the feet, but now watching Cam, it's all about the feel. And he shows a clip. I didn't play the clip, but just the still of it, he was showing a game clip. I think of him throwing the ball with goofy feet and dropping down sidearm and putting the ball right on his receiver. And, that happens. And like I said, there's times and situations for that, but I can guarantee you this. If you take all of Cam Ward's incompletions this year where he throws the ball low and in the ground, he throws it behind receivers, he sails it over the top of receivers, almost 100% of those throws you can trace back to his feet. And with quarterbacks, it starts and ends with your feet. Your feet control everything in regards to accuracy and putting the ball on guys. And Cam does not consistently have great mechanics. All right. Just remember that. It starts and ends with your feet, always. Okay, now I'm talking about that first drive earlier in the show and repeatedly throwing hitch routes and out routes. I got to talk about Mike Leach, the great Mike Leach, and what he did during games and his philosophy. And I agree 100% with it. Leach used to have his call sheet with him, that little 3x5 tri-folded piece of paper with his, 12 to 15 plays on it. And he carried with him on the sideline a pilot pen, red pilot pen. And what you would see him do when they ran a play that was successful, 6, 7, 8 yards or more, he would take that pen and he would put a little dot next to that play. And that red dot meant to him, call the damn play again, and then call it again, and then call it again. And so when you watch Texas Tech and Washington State and Mississippi State play when Leach was calling the shots as the head guy, you saw repeated plays over and over and over. So, with Cam Ward, you get him into a rhythm, and there's certain plays that he throws really well. I've been talking about the quick game all season long. I would like to know Cam's completion percentage when they run slants, stick routes, and hitch routes. All right. The quick game where he just gets the snap, he GSTs, and he gets the ball out. I'll bet you he's throwing in the upper 80s to low 90s completion percentage wise, but you don't see them consistently run those. And you can run the quick game up and down the field, And, but, in this game, again, I talked about he can throw slants blindfolded, and I think they ran one slant, maybe two, and Cam put the ball right on the money, moved the sticks. You just don't see, in my opinion, Shannon Dawson running the plays that keep Cam Ward in the rhythm. All right, let's take a look at this mesh route now. Wake is lined up pre-snap in a cover 2, and on the snap of the ball, they rotate down to a cover 3 zone. And this is easy money for Cam thrown against this coverage. He uses a quick 3-step drop, and that ball is out. I think he's the best in the passing game when he uses the quick game footwork. Also helps out, obviously, their offensive line in protection. And then let's talk about this quick out, this isolation quick out that they run to Restrepo. So they're stock blocking on the corner and they're running Restrepo on this little rollover quick out. It's an isolation play. There is no need to run the play action fake on this. Okay. Those inside linebackers in the box are not going to make the play. The game is get the ball to Restrepo, stock block on the corner, and let him do his thing out there on or near the sideline. But because Cam has to put the ball down into the running back's stomach and then bring it back up and get his feet right, he delivers a little bit off balance and the ball goes down low and we've got a botched up play. All right. Just get him in rhythm and tempo, snap the ball, GST, no run fake, stand up and throw that thing, get that damn stock block on the perimeter and let Restrepo do his thing. All right. Now compare that with this play right here. And again, this coverage look is like shooting fish in a barrel for Cam Ward and Shannon Dawson. But this is the situation where you run the play fake. All right. This is the situation where you put the ball on the running back's stomach to pull those inside linebackers up because you're going to throw that little bender in behind it. And like I said, this is easy money for Cam Ward. Great execution here. Okay, and then finally with Cam Ward, you don't see the Canes run this much, but this is a tunnel screen, or as I called it, a jailbreak screen. And I want you to check out Cam doing what he does better, I think, than any other quarterback in the country. And that's turning the double play as a shortstop. All right. So he's catching the snap. He's dropping down and he's getting that ball out fast. He's throwing it sidearm and he's putting it right on the receiver. Nobody does this in college football better than Cam Ward. Okay. So the absolute bottom line for Cam Ward is this: in order for them to win out, which is what they have to do the rest of the season to get into the playoffs, he needs to play at Cam Ward level, which means consistent. All right. Consistent, not only with mechanics and throwing the ball, but decision making. And I've said this in shows. When I first started doing my podcast, I talked about the number one skill that any quarterback has to have. It's not physical. It's be a great decision maker. All right. Okay. Here are some thoughts on the Wake Forest game. This is the 11th game of the season for the Canes. And I would say right now at the 11 game mark, you can say that they are not an elite team. They're good. They can be really good, but they're not an elite team. We've talked about their defense. We've talked about the inconsistencies in their offense. And, you know, I'm sure I got guys out there going, Coach, what the hell are you talking about with their offense? You know, Cam's the leading passer in the country. They lead the nation in passing and scoring and total offense. And yeah, they do. But when you watch them on film and you watch a full game, believe it or not, those guys could be blowing the lid off of offensive production and scoring even more than they have. They're inconsistent, but you know, I've talked about that before. So, but defense, offense, and special teams, they're not an elite team. Okay, so you've heard me talk before about pass protection. I talked about bob and sort. I'm going to explain that briefly in this little chalk session, and also talk about why your offensive linemen need to vertically set on the snap of the ball. And vertically set means get back off the line of scrimmage. So on the snap of the ball, they're kicking back. All right. And we talked about the benefits of that and why you do that, because it gives you time to let the defensive line and linebackers get into their rush lanes, show you where the blitzes are coming from, and it allows you to sort out your protection. Okay. The other thing it does is it really safeguards against twisting. And this is the example I'm going to show you. This happened in the game Saturday against Wake Forest. This was a big play. All right. The Canes are pinned down inside, down deep in their territory. They got to get a first down or they have to punt it. It's a third down play, and they have a great route called. All right. I'm going to chalk up the route real quick. This is against cover 2. Okay, and what they're running out here, the slot receivers running a little quick out, a little speed out to hold this cornerback. And then the outside receiver stemmed it inside, then went straight upfield and stuck his toe in the ground and burst it on an out cut. The cornerback is going to come up and play the quick out by the slot. This guy's frozen with that stem by the receiver. And when he breaks it out, he's wide ass open. But the ball gets batted down and Miami has to punt. And this is what happened. So getting back to the bob and sort. Now, Miami's sorting left here and they're bobbing right. Bob means man, sort means zone or gap block. So I'm going to start with the sort side. This is a 3-man sort. So the left tackle's got C gap, the left guard's got B gap, and the center's got A gap. All right. Now, that guy, and anybody coming off the edge, those guys are involved in the sort. On the bob side now, which is the right guard and the right tackle, they're manning up on these two guys, and the running back is checking this backer to this guy and then releasing on his route. So this is what happens. Miami, because they don't do a great job of vertically setting with their offensive line, these guys basically step laterally and try to block defensive linemen on the line of scrimmage. And as soon as you see that as a defensive coordinator, you're going to twist, because you can't block a twist when you're blocking guys on the line of scrimmage. And that's exactly what happened here. So Wake Forest runs this twist. Okay, and when this 5 or 6 technique, head up on the right tackle or outside shade, comes into B gap, the right tackle steps down laterally with him. This guy comes upfield to engage this guy who is also blocking him on the line of scrimmage, and then wraps around to the outside, and that's the twist. Okay, now here's the problem. Because they don't vertically set and see this happening and be able to pass off, so even though they're in man blocking, if they vertically set and saw that twist happening, this guard would block that B gapper, and this guy would just kick back and wait for this guy to come around the horn. But what happens is that the guard ends up taking this B gap, and because the tackle had stepped down laterally, as he sees this guy coming around, he's going, oh shit. And what he does is he does a complete pirouette out there to try to get his hands on this guy, and he can't do it. He couldn't quite get his hands on him to get the guy's hands down. And because he couldn't do that, and because he had to pirouette, because he's trying to block the guy on the line of scrimmage, this dude coming around to C-gap got a paw up and knocked Cam Ward's pass down. That's first down for Miami. They got a punt because of this. Now, let me show you one last little thing that they did. This is cool. I love doing this. This is called a tendency breaker. Just about every time that the back's lined up on the right, if he's going to release on a route, it's going to be to the right side. If he's lined up on the left, he's going to release to the left side. So defensive coordinators a lot of times will script or scheme their blitzes and whatnot, slanting the D line based on which side that running back's on, right? So what Dawson does on this play is he has the back check the inside linebacker, and then he releases to the opposite side and runs his route. All right, that's a tendency breaker. That's cool stuff. Well done. Get that vertical set in there so you can get that twist blocked so that we can complete that outcut for a big first down, move the sticks, and keep the drive going. All right, from the category of make them pay and or don't let them cheat. Okay, and what I'm talking about here, and I've discussed this in other shows with talking about Miami, is they'll line up in trips, and when you get teams that play cover two and they want to play a six-man box, they're going to play with two backers in the box, which means on the trip side, it's going to be three receivers basically against two underneath guys with a safety over the top. You cannot allow a defense to line up in this and not make them pay by going to the three receiver side. All right. And these are just a couple of ways that you can hurt this with screens. There's also, you can run stick routes. You can run option routes, which is another show down the road. But these are a couple ways that you can hurt these guys with screens. And I'll start with a bubble screen. All right, Cam Ward does a hell of a job at throwing these. He's the best in the business and just catching the snap and short stopping it out there. Or even he doesn't even really need to do the sidearm, drop down, throw it out, get it out of his hand as fast as he can. He can get his feet right and throw the ball out here accurately. You know, the bubble screen, in my opinion, is one of the harder throws for quarterbacks because you've got a receiver going away from you and the angle is a little bit weird. But if you work on these in practice, like anything else in your offense, you're going to be able to do this, with your eyes closed. I keep saying that about Cam Ward in the passing game, but it's really that easy. So the outside receiver blocks the corner. Remember, we talked about this before. Your receivers, if they want to play and catch balls, they got a stock block on the perimeter, because when you're running punch screens or bubble screens, if you can block out there, all right, you're going to really hurt the defense. But you get a lot of receivers out there that don't put a big emphasis on blocking. It's not important to them, all right? And coaches, I'm telling you, if you take those dudes and you sit them on the sideline and you play somebody else out there, they all of a sudden get the message that, yeah, I probably need to block. Anyway, the outside receiver is blocking the corner. The number two receiver is blocking the slot defender. We're going to let the safety run, all right? You get him pinned, you get this guy blocked, you tell your bubble guy, catch the ball and get wide. Get wide. Remember, he's got all these bad guys inside that are coming out at him. Get wide, read that dude's block, make that guy miss, and see you later. And then you've got punch screens that you can run. So here's an example of running the punch to number two. And it's the same premise. Now, this is the one where Cam catches the snap and just short stops it out here. And again, he's going to catch the ball and get wide. Read the block on the cornerback. We've got this guy pinned with number three. That guy's running, but make him miss. See you later, or big play. You can also run this, based on how Wake was playing this coverage the other day, where this corner 78 yards off, even deeper at times, and backpedaling as the ball's being snapped. You can run the punch screen to the outside receiver. All right. And now number two's up on the corner. Another way that you'll see teams run this, And we're talking angles here. So being able to come down and down block this guy, you really get a pin here. And then you just release this guy right off the ass of number 2, and he's working out on the cornerback. Anyway, this is a way to make defenses play honest and make them pay for cheating and playing 6 guys in the box. Okay, if you like the show and the content, hit the like button. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate the support. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Miami Wake game and Cam Ward's performance. What do you see for the Syracuse game? This is QB Unfiltered, and remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.